Welcome back to Castlevania Harmony of Dissonance. Last time, we finished exploring the Aqueduct of Dragons, and then hit another dead end, as is, a classic with this game's level design. This time, we are gonna, first of all, get the fuck out of here, and continue exploring the clock tower. Alright. We've made our way back into the entrance to the clock tower. So, let's just move on. By far the worst part of this area is the harpies. This enemy gets spammed very frequently here, and they hit decently hard, and they move very erratically and fly all over the place, and are generally just little fucking assholes who make life more annoying, so... They also take a handful of hits to kill, so... And they continue moving around even after you hit them. Like, look at that, she's just camping in the ceiling. You guys are definitely the first, real pain in the ass enemy in the game, I feel like. I wouldn't say they're very manageable, but they're definitely annoying. Oh, jeez. Hey, we got some scale armor. See if it's any better than the padded armor. It is. Somewhere here in the clock tower, there is an entire set of armor you can get that is a very, very solid upgrade. Pretty much no matter what you have at this point in the game, it will be a very good upgrade to whatever you have. And we will definitely be getting it once we actually once we actually get there. Jesus Christ, I can't even talk tonight. But, no, we gotta actually get there first, so... Just keep on going. Yeah, these disc armor enemies, they can definitely hit you hard, but... Oh, jeez. Look at that. Ruler Sword level 2. He got stronger since last time. And ironically, I feel like he's a bit easier. Maybe it's just the Bible helping out, but... The fact that the little swords he spawned, they only, You can see, they just orbit around him in a circle rather than just levitating all over the screen. Well, they kind of still do. Yeah, this guy feels like a pushover, kind of, compared to Ruler Sword level 1. Anyway, this is going to sound very random and out of nowhere, but something that bothers me about this room, that you can see on the wall here, there's just, a single green pixel sticking out next to these grandfather clocks, and... I mean, it's annoying, yeah. Just figured I might as well point it out, because one of those things where... Oh, shit. One of those things where when you see it, you don't unsee it. Yeah, this would not be a Castlevania clock tower without the infamous Medusa head enemies. If you've played a Castlevania game before, you probably hate these little shits. And this isn't just any Medusa heads. These are, of course, the yellow variant that petrify you if they touch you. Real mean little bastards. At least they go down in one hit. They're definitely one of the enemies that you can, wiggle your whip to take down. Let's just keep moving it on, though. And... Do I even need to say it at this point? That's right, it's yet another dead end. Of course, if I had a nickel for every time I pointed out a dead end in this game, I'd have enough money to buy Konami and then make a remake of this game where all the dead ends are gone. I'm just kidding. I'm dogging on this game, but it doesn't bother does not bother me that much. I find the dead ends more amusing than anything, to be totally honest. Just how many of them there are. But in the first episode, when I said this game feels really tough for beginners, and that I didn't like it very much the first time I played, this is definitely something that factors into it. A lot of the design in this game just feels really stupid and, weirdly annoying to new players like that. All the dead ends everywhere. If you're brand new playing this game and you don't know the layout, it just makes progression very, very frustrating, I feel like, when you go to some new area and just... Oh, you're getting stopped arbitrarily again, because the path just ends here. And, yeah, these, Metroidvania games, they're gonna have their dead ends once in a while, obviously, but, the game goes a bit overboard with it. Anyway, look at this guy, the Guardian armor. He's really tough. We aren't even dealing any damage to him. But, as you can see, we keep hitting him, and he's getting pushed back, and there's a curious contraption all the way on the other end of the room. Let's keep hitting him and see what happens. So, I want to know what is the purpose of this contraption? It's like the episode of SpongeBob, where Squidward just gets torn to pieces by a steamroller designed specifically to just, murder him while he's out for a drive. That's what this is. And fun fact, if you run into these gears, yeah, you do get hit. I don't know, that's just one of the funniest little set pieces in this game to me. Just the Guardian armor in a room with big cogs that you just whip until he gets crushed to death. And in return, you get your own full set of Guardian armor. You get the Guardian armor, helmet, boots, and gloves. And every single one of these armor pieces is an upgrade to whatever armor you have at this point, almost certainly. So that is a very, very nice defense bonus to get. And the nice thing is, like, this is an optional little side area, but, like, if you know it's here, there's, like, you can't miss it. There's no reason to not just go here, and even if you haven't been buying any armor, like me, and you haven't been exploring very much, you can just come down here and guaranteed get a very good set of armor for this point in the game. So that's definitely very nice. Anyway, let's keep on heading up the clock tower. In the Castlevania Classic, there's a clock tower area, and you gotta scale it upwards. Which, I mean, you know, I suppose that makes sense. Clock towers are typically very vertical. Yeah, the clock tower is a classic, absolute classic Castlevania area. I can't think of a game that doesn't have a clock tower. And they're usually a real pain in the ass of an area as well. Anyway, as you might have just seen, there is a boss door up here, so let's go kick his ass. And holy shit, it's the big puddle of slime. It's not just any slime though, it's Max Slimer. This boss is a joke. He's not hard at all. Just hit him over and over again. He has no attacks. All he does is just spawn smaller slimes as he gets hit, and if you notice, he himself shrinks every time he gets hit. Which means this fight just boils down to popping an active overtime spell, like the Wind Book. I'm sorry, the Wind Bible, and then just kind of whipping him over and over while crouching until he dies. Yeah, not even hard at all. All we lost from that was like 1 HP and some MP, so not even gonna bother grabbing that boss orb. Let's just head on. Look at that, you can see the sky over there. We are all the way on the rightmost edge of the map, basically. And I guess it must be nighttime now. You can see guys are deep, almost purplish blue. Head over here, and we got another tough enemy over here. If you remember the victory armor, or the... I don't remember what he's called in this game, but I believe we've actually already seen this enemy. He appeared when we first went through that very first gate. Down in the... like, the bottom left of the map. There's that gate, and then right to the left is the save room. Yeah, there are two of these guys, one or two of these guys down here, so at this point, they're not a problem. Anyway, we got the green stone. Now we have, I believe, a wind element attack on our whip. No idea how useful that is in this point, so let's experiment a little and see. It's 36 damage to the harpy with the green stone, and without it, it's 48. So yeah, they give you a green stone and an area where the enemies just resist it. So try some other ones though. The yellow stone, well, it's not very much stronger. Head back to the blue stone. Yeah, I guess the harpies are actually weak to the blue stone. I didn't even notice. So I suppose it makes sense to give you the green stone in this area because you're fighting these harpies who can fly, and the green stone is wind element. But yeah, they're kind of useless. Excuse me. Maybe there's some point later where the green stone is useful. But anyway, look at that. It's death. See, that line of dialogue right there, where Juice gets confused and he says, Dracula's remains. I believe, so we have the Nail of Vlad at this point. I believe at this point in the game, if you haven't actually collected any of Dracula's body parts yet, I think this little exchange here is actually slightly different. Because at this point, Juice is, you know, we have one of the pieces. We know that Maxim was telling the truth. There really are the remains of Dracula hidden around the castle. But if you don't have any of them at this point, I believe the exchange is different. I will have to... Once this recording is over, I will have to go back and check the game script to see if that's the case or not, because I'm pretty sure it was. And there he goes. So, yeah, Death was saying some very curious stuff about 2 spirits and 2 castles, and, 2 girls and 1 cup, 2 castles, 1 maxim. Let's see what the fuck he was talking about, and go through this very crazy looking gate. If you played Symphony of the Night, you probably recognize this as the gate animation that plays when you battle the doppelganger at the beginning. So yeah, so he's saying, now I see what death means when there are 2 castles. What the fuck does that mean? Well, let's take a look at the map. And now it looks way different. You can see it says Castle A plus B. What the hell is that about? Let's press L. But you can see there's an imprint of all of those underground areas before the Skeleton Cave and the Luminous Cavern. We were definitely there before, but suddenly, in Castle A, we haven't been there. The area is still grayed out. And if we look at Castle B, it's the opposite. Again, if you've played Symphony of the Night, you know what this means. Symphony of the Night had, about halfway through the game, you enter the reverse castle, which is the layout of the map, except it's flipped upside down, and there are new enemies everywhere. That's essentially what this game does. There are two castles. I mean, they just said that about 5 times, but they were being literal. There are literally 2 castles. You can even see, this guy's a blood red now. While this game's castle gimmick is not as crazy as Symphony of the Night, and to be brutally honest, I don't think it's nearly as robust either, but you can go into this room where those feather mans were, and wow, there are different enemies. Yeah, at this point in the game, that's the big realization. There are 2 castles, and the layout is generally the same between the 2, but the enemies are remixed, and a couple rooms have slightly different layouts. And so if you remember back in the first episode, we go through that very first gate, and Juice says, oh, something feels different here. This is what he was alluding to. This was supposed to be a vague implication that we are in, like, not an alternate world per se, but the Castle B is implied to be a very bizarre, like, it's like a bizarre alternate version of the castle, basically, and that's what the game was trying to imply, but at that point in the game, him saying that just, in my opinion, it just doesn't make any sense, considering that's the very first warp you've gone through in the entire game, so, I mean, why the hell would you think that you've suddenly, like, what would imply that there's 2 castles, And I feel like that is part of the confusion that this game brings to new players, is that they introduce the 2 castles thing way earlier than they actually tell you, and I think it can lead to headaches. Anyway, you can see, we were in this room before. This led to the Guardian armor, but it's a dead end. No, I'm just kidding. Now you whip this gear, and this little platform gets moved out of the way so you can actually fit through. And this is where most of the differences in the castle layout comes from. It's just a handful of rooms are remixed a little bit, basically. But generally, the layout is pretty much the same. The main difference is the enemies. Yeah, you can see, the Guardian armor is just completely gone now. There's a Bone Serpent and a max HP up. White Dragon level 2. Well, he's a pushover at this point. But yeah, when I said before that this game copies a lot of homework from Symphony of the Night, this is absolutely what I'm talking about. This game is like, you could argue it's a spiritual successor, although it's, it's in the same franchise, so I don't know if that term would really apply here, but yeah, there are a lot of similarities between this game and Symphony of the Night, although I feel like, admittedly, I've only played Symphony of the Night through all the way one time. It's like my least played Castlevania game next to like Portrait of Ruin, which is the only of the Metroidvanias that I've never actually finished because I'm fucking lazy, to be honest. Maybe that'll be a Let's Play for another day, but yeah, I feel like this game has oh, that guy went down really quick. There's a dead end. Now I'm getting sidetracked. I feel like this game does a lot of stuff that Symphony did, but doesn't do it as good, and I think the 2 castles gimmick is like it's the epitome of that. It just feels so much sloppier. Whatever. I'm not an expert. I'm not a game dev. Maybe I'm just completely retarded and everything I'm saying is wrong, but whatever. Enough griping about that. Anyway, you may have noticed when we walked into this room, there's this cool button and this big hammer on the ceiling. Isn't that sweet? And you may have also noticed that there is a dead end and this weird bronze guy, so let's, instead of just killing him, let's go for a quick walk with him. That was moonwalk a little bit. Now that he's lined up, let's step on that button again. This game sure does love just torturing these armor enemies. That's about the third large armor enemy that we have just killed with like a Looney Tunes tier like contraption, you know what I'm saying? I mean, 4 if you count the opening of the game where we were being chased by that gigantic guy whose head is just cut off at the top of the screen. Anyway, this is a curious room. You can see there's a little thing in the corner here. What's that about? Well, this is... I'm just going to spoil it. I'm going to say it straight up. This is another shop. And you may be thinking, what the fuck are you talking about? There's no shopkeeper here. This game has a very curious gimmick with its multiple shops, as every shop except for the... God, I just had a brain spasm. Every shop except for the very first one actually has a specific requirement you must meet for the shop to actually have the shopkeeper in it. And that one back there, you can see a weird little graphic in the corner. There's a specific item you need to get from an enemy called the Noon Star, I believe. And if you have the item in your inventory, that shop will open. So it's, in a way, it's a kind of a secret shop. Anyway, I'm getting so sidetracked. Once you... I was griping about the 2 castles, but once you enter Clock Tower... We're in Clock Tower B right now. Once you get over here, there's a lot of really interesting, kind of gimmicky stuff to talk about. This is one of them. It's this button here. You step on it, and the little ball is moving on ahead. So let's try to beat it in a race. And the race it's not that hard. It's not just like completely free and easy, but you have to try a little bit. You want to actually dodge the enemies, because if you keep getting knocked back by enemies and hit over and over, the ball will just pass right by you. Curious little thing to know about this little race section is the fact that slide kicking is probably the fastest way to get across it, except for the little slopes when you're on top of the pinball track. For some reason in this game, if you're on a slope and you slide, you actually travel much slower. Even if you're sliding down a slope, you'd think that would make you go faster, but no, I guess Juiced just ignores the laws of physics for that. But anyway, this is the end of the pinball track, and you can see there's a little part to slide down here. Wait for that pinball to actually catch up. Wow, we really smoked it. You can see, I'm pretty familiar with the layout of it, so it's not hard. Oh, there it comes. Let's quickly slide under there. Yeah, if you're not fast enough, then the pinball blocks the way, and you're not allowed to slide under here. But there is some healing mail and the heart choker, which are 2 unique pieces of equipment. If I remember correctly, the healing mail, yeah, if you stand still, you slowly gain HP back. And I do mean slowly. Look at my health bar. Took a handful of seconds just to get 2 HP back. It's not very good. Stick with gear that just gives you better defense. Meanwhile, the heart choker, when you have it equipped, you will see big hearts more frequently, which if you've been paying attention, you'll see that there are big hearts that drop from candles, and then there are small hearts. The more common ones are the small hearts, which just give you 1 heart, but a big heart gives you 5. And so, you know, getting more big hearts to spawn, that's always good. Just quickly save here. It's not really necessary, but you may have noticed halfway through the pinball track, there is a little section to slide under that I elected to ignore. Now that we've actually beat the pinball in the race, quickly head over there and see what that's about. And, you know, fucking body slam some flea men while we're on the way there, because dodging is hard. As you can see here, you definitely don't go nearly as fast if you slide down a slope like that. It's a bit awkward. Anyway, here we go. There is the lucky ring and raccoon figure. There's another, you know, another piece of furniture, but this lucky ring, it boosts your luck by 20, as opposed to the lucky charm that boosts your luck by 10. And I've already, several times now, vaguely alluded to how pointless luck is as a stat. And, well, I'm still not going to elaborate on it. You're just gonna have to stay blue-balled for now. Trust the plan. Anyway, head out of this pinball race, and, well, I'll catch up to you when we are in a section of Clock Tower B that we haven't seen already. Alright, so I know I said we would be checking out more of Clock Tower B, but I lied a little bit. We're back in the warp room, and Well, as you can see, you can just activate it again, and this is how you switch between the two castles. You head over to this warp room, and bam, we are in Castle A now. And you can see, if you look at the opposite castle map, that little glowing indicator to show our current location, it's not there. While I have the map open, might as well also mention that you can see the map is in 3 colors, that being blue, which represents where you've been in Castle A, green, where you have been in Castle B, and these light blue segments show rooms that you have been to in both castles. So, it actually is pretty convenient for, keeping track of where you've been. You can also see on the map that there is a completion percentage in the top right. It just shows you how much of both castles you've explored, and it goes up to 200%. You can explore 100% of both castles. Unlike other Castlevania games, there is no completion bonus for exploring the entirety of a castle. Like, if you get 200% map completion, there's no sort of bonus. I say unlike other Castlevania games. I believe some of the games were like that. Anyway, let's head on this way. You may be curious as to how we're supposed to reach that pinball room in Castle A. And yes, that pinball room is still there in Castle A. We're gonna go see it right now. Because you may remember Castle B, this was the room with the bronze garter enemy, whatever it was called. And we hit it with a hammer, and it broke through that wall. And if you remember before that, when we were here initially in Castle A, well, there's a wall that just created a dead end. But now, you can see, the wall's gone. That's definitely the most interesting part of the 2-castle system in this game, is the fact that if you, interacting with certain areas of the map in one castle will affect the other castle as well. You see, though, the location of shops is actually the same between both castles. We still do not have that Noon Star, though, so we can't actually enter it. But yes, it's pretty common in this game, or it's fairly common, like, where there will be a room with some kind of wall or obstacle, and you do something in one of the castles, and it opens the path in the opposite castle, which you are then encouraged to go backtrack there and get some goodies. And I've said already, well, yeah, look at that, the pinball race is back, and it's a little harder this time, because the layout is slightly different, but more importantly, the first race was just filled with flea men, which are pretty whatever, but this time, so far, you're just hitting these Arabaki enemies, but once you get down here, there's spikes everywhere, and then, you get even further down, we dive kick straight into some spikes, but no, as you get further down, you can see there are also, any second now, bear with me here real quick. Yeah, there are these bone pillars as well, so you can't just slide through like you did in Castle B's pinball room. You have to actually do some platforming. It's definitely a more difficult version of the pinball challenge, because you don't just get to slide through for free. You have to actually try. In fact, I'm getting stopped quite a bit here. Let's speed over here and finish this in time. Okay, there we go. We got the Lucky Cat, another piece of furniture. The heart max up. Nice, and HP max up, and would you look at that? We got our 4th spell book, the Bolt book, which this may shock you, but this gives you, no pun intended, this may shock you, but this is what gives you lightning spells. Look at that, pretty cool. Anyway, as you can see, we're backtracking through the pinball maze again. If you remember in Castle A, there's a little segment around here where you slide through, and there's an extra room. I hope you kept that in mind, because if you did, where is it? That little sliding section is still here. This, in the very first episode, I said this is the type of game where some of the secrets, there's just no way for you to know, really. This secret pissed me off a lot when I first played. I had to look this up, I admit. It's one of those secrets where, in hindsight, it makes sense. You can see, hey, there's like a whole section over here of these platforms, but it's blocked off by a wall. How do I get over there? And you might remember, hey, in this section of the track in Castle B, there's a little sliding section here. And I guess that's supposed to be what tells you can come here, but I completely overlooked that when I first played. And I suppose if you're like me, you got the hint card, and you got the Nail of Vlad. The fact that there are walls you can pass through, that would set a precedent in your mind, but I definitely did not get that at my first playthrough without backtracking. Oh, jeez, I'm trying to talk, man. Why are you shooting me? Yeah, I didn't get the secret in my first try without looking it up, so it definitely pissed me off a little bit, let's just say that. Anyway, my inability to be smart aside, we got the Fang of Vlad, that's right, we got another piece of Dracula's corpse. One increases defense. No downside to that at all, it's always nice to have extra defense, so that's very appreciated. Anyway. I will get back to you once we get out of this pinball maze. Alright. We are, yet again, finally back at this warp gate. I am probably going to be saying that a whole lot. This is definitely the point in the game where the backtracking starts to get out of hand, because there are multiple of these warp gates. Jesus Christ, I really can't talk. I'm tired. Yeah, there are multiple of these warp gates, but for quite a while, this is going to be the only one we have. And look at how much ground we covered. The backtracking really kind of starts to get out of hand here. This really may be the point where a first-time player would start to get really frustrated with this game's level design, with all the dead ends and the winding, repetitive halls and the backtracking. Yeah, it's definitely rough. I've been cutting out as much of the backtracking as I can, where there's just, dead air and not much to say, but I feel like this is going to be happening more and more as we progress further through the game. But anyway, next time we will actually be continuing through Castle B and exploring the rest of the clock tower. So, see you next time.